How to make this articulated unicorn in SelfCAD. Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to review another interactive tutorial that shows how to design this from start to finish. This unicorn. I'm going to explain you what you can expect from this video. Some of the things you may have seen in other videos, so you can skip through them as needed. But I'm sure you can learn something new. So the main idea here is we're going to create the main object using an imported profile. It will take too much time to draw everything and plus show this. So the designer already designed the profile and then in the tutorial simply imports them. And then we're going to show how to convert the profile into a mesh, which is really simple. And then we're gonna make these cuts. So making the cuts is the first idea of creating the knife tool, kind of what you're going to use to cut, and then positioning that across the object, which we're going to use copy offset to skillfully position everything where it's needed. And then we're going to create the mechanism, the hinge mechanism, which is probably the most interesting part of this video, and then position them as well and cut them out combining. So it's relatively simple. So let's get started. So I've already downloaded this tutorial, and I'm going to load them over here. And as I said, the first thing we'll start importing. So we'll click on the import, and as I've shown in many other tutorials, normally it will browse from your computer to import, but in this case it basically has the option load from your scene, from the tutorial. So basically we get this ready-made profile. In order to convert that profile, we just need to go extrusion and enter the values. In this case we extrude them by 6, and that's finalized. You have the basic shape. So now you have a solid, complete solid. So now we're going to create a knife, and for that we're going to use a simple thinned out cube. So we position them and over here, and we just finalize them. And now what we're going to do here is we're going to use copy offset. So we want to make more copies, so we're going to set the X to 24 over here, and we're going to make 3 copies across and just click copy. And now we have these 3 copies positioned over here. Right now they just moved in the X direction because they're kind of linear in one direction. But now we want to start making more specialized copies. So we're going to unselect these 3 so we can work only with the last one. We deselect the other, work only with this. And we're going to change it to 26 and -5 on the X and Z. And here we're going to use add option. So we're going to add another option that's going to be a scale, because we need to scale here, we need a bigger cut. So we're going to scale it and set the Z to 15. And now we also want to rotate it. So we're going to add another transformation. This is the beauty of this copy offset. You can kind of create your own macros. And we're going to make -16 to rotate them. And then we're going to make 2 copies of this. Okay, so this is basically positioned over here. Now I want to stop here for a second and explain you something with these macros. Now, to do this the first time, I'm sure the designer first had to play them manually, figure out how much to rotate, where to rotate, unless they had some technical instructions. If you have technical instructions how it should be, you could just enter them. But if not, you have to manually figure them out. You can do them manually. So what is the benefit of copy offset? Well, the main benefit is you can save them actually. If you go down over here in the advanced settings, there is an option to save macros. You can give them your own name and save it. And that will be saved actually once you reload the application as well. You can save your own macros. So if you're going to do something over and over, you can just make kind of your own programming over here and reuse them. So that's actually one of the great advantages with this. Okay, so with that said, the default, as before, the default is it selects everything, because in most cases after copy offset, you're going to want to group them all. You want them to be selected. But in this particular case, same as before, we want to deselect some and keep only the last one selected, so we can further play with that. So now we're going to make changes to X, changing on the X, on the position, and we're going to change the scale value, and we're going to change the rotation. So we still use all 3 options, but we make only 1 copy. And we click copy, so we got basically this. And now we can exit out. So now once we exit it out, we actually need to select all of them to group it, because that's the standard procedure. Usually you create them, you want to group them. But we had to deselect them, and basically yes. So I need to select all of them. I'm just going to click marquee selection. And also another important thing, marquee selection would select everything. So theoretically it should select the main unicorn as well. But the thing is that the tutorial protects that, because it allows me to select only what's in the part of the tutorial. But even if I wouldn't be tutorial mode, I would still use marquee selection to select everything. Then I would just click again on the unicorn to deselect them. So that's basically the idea. And I'm going to group them. I'm going to use the option Control G to group them. And as I said, this is, you know, a standard flow to group after these type of copies. And now, so we have this basically these knives. This is going to act as the knife to cut them out. And the tool to activate them as a knife is using stitch and scoop. So we just need to select both of them. I selected this plus this group. And we're going to stitch and scoop, and we're going to go to the difference. And we're going to use to remove the group. Now there's an option here we're going to use later to keep subtracted copies. In this case, we don't want to keep them. We're done with the knife. We made the cuts. So we just finalize, and that's it. And now once we're done, we're going to simply add colors. Let me just click next, and it's basically added the color. And now what we're going to do is start working on the hinge mechanism. So for that, the first thing is we create another cube. And this cube is going to be a simple small thing over here, positioned. And we just exit out, and then we're going to go to positioning. Before we start positioning, we're going to isolate them. So I can isolate them from the view, or I can use it in the side menu over here. Click isolate, or use the shortcut key. So this is a basic simple cube, okay, reshaped. And now what we're going to do here is we're going to add another piece, which is going to be the cylinder. And the cylinder is going to be positioned over here next to it. And we just finalize it because we're going to position it now next to the cube using the align tool. So align tool is a very powerful tool to align relative to other shapes. So we're going to choose this mesh 9, which was the cube. And by default, if you see, it positions it at the center, at the bottom center, but we want to position it at the left side. But if we position it at the left side, it's completely outside. So that's why we're going to use an offset. So SelfCAD allows you to add an offset. So we're adding an offset of 3, which basically is exactly the center positioned over here. Now, normally we're going to activate the solid mode so we can see what's happening. Now, normally this needs to be combined actually. Eventually we will combine these two, and that will be unions combined together. But we're not going to do this because we want to keep this shape still separate so we can work on it as you see in a moment. So what we're going to do over here, we're going to activate the polygon mode, and we're going to select this. And this is just kind of, if we think about a copy paste approach. So we're going to offset over here something minus 0.05. Okay, we just make a small of, oops, what did I do? 0.05, okay. Not 0.05, 0.5, my mistake. Okay, so we just make a small inset. Now, the reality is we don't really need this as part of this object. This is just, we want to get an object positioned over here with that size. So it fits in over here. And instead of going to the cylinder, making a new cylinder, positioning it, we're just using them to copy paste. So we're going to simply click copy, and we have this new copy. And now that's all we wanted, to get this simple object to copy over here. And now we're going to convert this into, this is basically just a plane at this point. It's a simple, we copy only the surface. And we're going to add a big offset for 18, so it's going to stick out all the way, and finalize it. And now we're going to align this into this object using again the align tool. Now if this would have been combined already, we couldn't have aligned it to this object because the object would have been fused together and the alignment would basically be in the center somewhere over here, so it wouldn't work. So that's why it's a good idea. But once we align now, what we do is we use the middle. We want this to be in the center of this, okay? And we're going to use now inverse select to select everything else. So we selected inverse select, selected these two. Now the reason inverse select didn't select the unicorn and the profile is because they're hidden. Inverse select will only select what's visible. So now once they're connected, we're going to click Ctrl+U, or from here going union. It's the same stitch and scoop union, it's just easier that you can make Ctrl+U, and they're combined. So now we have them combined. So now the goal would be to create a hole over here in this hinge. So for that we need to select this section as well. So we have selected these two objects, and we're going to stitch and scoop to remove. And in this case what we want is actually, you see this removed it, but instead of deleting this piece, we want to have this part of the hinge. We're going to select the option keep subtracted object. So if we finalize, we have the hole plus this object back. But in this case, this is the exact size. We use that to cut out, but in order this should move, we need them to be a little bit wiggle room, so kind of they can go in that tight. So for that, what we're going to do is simply scale it down, and we're going to use the keep proportion option and scale it down the Z to 16. So now this is, as you can see, it has some room over here to move around. And now what we're going to do here is we're going to select both of them, this also, and simply color them, and click next, next, okay. Next, to finalize it, and then simply group them together. Ctrl U, Control G, I'm sorry, to group them. And this is now a group, this entire thing. Okay, so we have one side of this. We still need to create another side that we're going to use to cut out. Here we need a rectangular part over here to cut out from the mesh where this is going to fit in, has some place to move around the entire hinge. So for that we're going to create another cube, a small cube again, and we position it over here directly. As you can see, it positions it, it covers, it overlays this entire subject over here and this entire thing. And we're going to give it some color again, and basically this, and we select now show this one. Okay, and we're going to move it actually. So we take both of them together, so we move them in unison because it's already been positioned, and we're moving them to just a fraction. It's 48.25, we're making it minus 48, so we're basically removing the 0.25, making it positioned perfect, and also position the Z to minus 4 just to give it a final position. Okay, so now we're going to use this. This is the main mechanism. We still don't cut them out, we're just going to position them. So we're simply going to use the copy offset logic that we used before to create these knives. Now we're going to use the same thing. We're going to make x24, making 3 copies, very similar to what we did before, creating copies. So we have created these copies, and now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to deselect, keep selected only the last one, so we can continue working with them. And now we're gonna do group these two together. Okay, so we're grouping these two together. Okay, I'm actually not sure why it's grouped at this point, what the benefit is, but yeah, I don't know. That's how the designer did it. I'm actually not sure why. And now it's gonna move to X and Z, entering positioning, but we're gonna add another option. Add a macro, we're gonna add also a rotation, and we're gonna move it to minus 16 and Y, and we're gonna make just one copy at this point. Take a copy, so we made this copy over here. Now we're gonna again deselect this one, so we had selected only the last one, and we're going to change the positions, and we're gonna make another copy. So we added this copy over here. It's hard to see because they overlap the other object, but soon you'll see them all once we start cutting them all out. Now we do the same thing. We deselect, so we have selected only the last one. We change the position, and we no longer want to rotate. So actually there's a few options to do it. You can simply go and change from rotate and move it to whatever you want to have the other position, but somehow the designer did it this way, simply exiting out the rotate and adding a new one. So now we're adding a scale, so we didn't need to rotate, just need a scale, and we enter the scale value and again make just one copy. So this basically created this option over here. Okay, so now we have all of them selected. So we're gonna select also these others, so basically select all of them, and now we're going to ungroup all of them. This is actually something I just learned. I didn't know we can ungroup many groups at once. I was actually surprised to learn that. I thought ungroup could be only one, but somehow we can ungroup all of them. And the goal here is we're going to group them by, because we group them together, all of the sections together, but we want to isolate, having the small cubes that we're going to use to cut out here, and separately the hinges themselves. So we're going to deselect all of this original group. So we have basically nested groups here, and we select only this. So basically what we have over here, you see in a second, we have here all of these small cubes, and let's see what else needs to be deselect this one. Okay, so you have selected only all of these small cubes, and we're going to group them now. Before we had them like nested, one group and another, and now we're going to select the unicorn as well, so we can use these cubes that we've added to simply cut out. And in this case we want to simply also, we don't want to have keep subtracted object because we don't want them. This is just to cut out, and as you can see what this did is it cut out this section over here. So we cut it out only one side because this is where it's going to be the hinge and it's going to be moving, while this part needs to be kind of soldered together at the end. So what we have now left is we have these sections together, and they are grouped, different groups basically. We're soon going to combine everything. So now we're going to go inverse select, and what we're going to do now is we're going to group them together. So you see we're going to create another nested group because we have these grouped, and we're going to group again, control G, so they're all grouped together. And now once they're all grouped together, what we left out here is we still need to cut out pieces over here, make the hole where this is going to be able to move. So we again select the main object, So we have selected this hinge mechanism in the main object, and we go again to stitch and scoop to remove, but now we want to click on keep subtracted object, because otherwise look what's happening. This basically creates the hole over here, but we're losing the mechanism, the hinge themselves. So we keep subtracted object and finalize. So we have now, basically this is done, we have now this object. Now this tutorial actually is missing one point, which is combining this, because right now if you want to see, let me show you, I can basically take this entire group and simply move it up, as you can see. So this will not work, this has to be soldered to them. So there's two options you can do. You can just go simply click on both of them and combine them together. Control U, which is basically this one over here, union, Control U, or from here, which is union. It's the same idea. So if you combine this union, this basically now it's a single object, and this is perfectly fine, printable. But I want to show you just as a tip here that the SelfCAD slicer has also a union. So I keep these two separate. I did undo, so undid what I did, and this is now separate. And I'm going to go to 3D print. When I go to 3D print, because I have two objects, it asks me if these are part of a single piece or they're two separate. And I say it's part of a single piece. And now what's going to happen here is if I'm going to slice this, the slice takes just a few seconds. You see over here they're perfectly sliced. I'm going to move here to see how they print actually. So you see we start with this, and then it starts building out just the rectangular part. You can see they get nicely stitched together, and starts moving until we start seeing the cylinder starts appearing over here, because they're in the center. That's how it should be. And it starts moving the cylinder more and more until it's completely covered with just this part over here. So they're perfectly done correctly. Now the reason this is working is because in settings I have on in mesh fixes, there's an option here which union overlapping volume. I have this on. If this wouldn't be on, that would be different. It wouldn't be combining them correctly. But so it's either you do it over here or in the application themselves you union them together. But nevertheless, this is the main idea how you get it. And that's basically all for this tutorial. I hope this was helpful. You learned something new. And let me know in the comments if you want me to show anything else. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Bye.